please.
I don't know who's on my phone calling me in there. Somebody's calling me. So while you get started, I'll go see who it was.
I was gonna place wagers on it,
And Greg, you're gonna have to show Scotty how to do it.
we may need to do it if you can.
So the retention basin was initially in front. Okay, but so we're gonna touch an orchard though, so I assume it's just gonna get moved this way.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll make the drainage work and I can change a little bit.
And
It'll
they're
be a driveway.
gonna do the sidewalk probably.
Oh, wait. I don't believe the sidewalk was, but the sidewalk's gonna come down this way.
Yeah.
Somebody called me.
Okay, but they will have the sidewalk there. Well, there's one there now.
On whatever's there now.
I just had a phone call before he came down from Colorado.
But they'll have one on this side.
I don't know, ask. Page starts here, nobody called me, but the retention pond there, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's dry, so.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah. Told you to start.
Your insight. You did a radio for Europe.
Okay, folks, we're gonna get this meeting called to order at 6:31. This is for a site plan review for the Mantua Vet Clinic on East High Street. Is everybody online that we need? I see Gene Roberts, Tammy Meyer,
Gene Orders.
Gene Arders, and I don't,
Rich?
John Thompson's on.
Oh, there's Rich at the bottom.
I don't know who's upper right, and I don't know who's in the center.
Yeah. Can you see who the names are on the upper right there, Michelle? Oh, that's Doctor?
Doctor came up.
Yeah, mine
Okay.
says win 205, so. it's
Okay,
one-
some of the people were just trying to identify from across the room who was who.
Yep.
And
And
then
then-
I'm gonna assume that's your architect in the center? Is that Sean?
Yes, and then my contractor is sitting next to me over here, so
Okay,
he's on the same with me.
so I would start saying, okay, this was advertised.
Okay, there was an advertisement on this as application number 26-2020 submitted by Mantua Vet Clinic. Request a site plan review for an additional new building to be constructed on land located at 4789 East High Street in the village of Mantua. Okay, who wants to start?
Start with their list of,
Okay, we're gonna, okay, this is a email that was received from the residents of adjoining properties. I don't know if I'm gonna ask these questions in the same, question from the residents. We have several questions on the usage of the aquamation, cremation process of this addition. Will this impact the water usage for neighboring properties, lower pressure, interruption of service, etc.? And the reply was, it's going to be very low. The aquamation process uses less water than a single household uses in one day. And the source is cited. This includes all of the water used for the process, along with the clean water rinsing off the final remains and vessel. And this system will not run daily. Accurate, Doctor?
So, and I should have put, it's a family of 4 is what the data says on the government's website, and what the research has put in. And it won't run daily. So
Okay.
2 days a week, 3 days a week is what we're anticipating max.
This is a question from Greg Barron, a resident near your facility.
So Doc, when you start this process, is that water in the tank contained and just recirculates, or is that always being added with alkalinity and flushing water throughout the process?
I can't hear the question. I didn't hear the question.
Okay, come on up here, speakers up here.
Sorry.
It's kind of like karaoke.
Okay, so my question is, when the tank vessel is filled and the animal's in there, do you just recirculate the water that's in there with the alkaline, or is there a constant flow of fresh water with alkalinity being added as well?
No, it's filled once per run, and that same water is recirculated.
Okay,
How many gallons does the tank hold? Can I ask?
how many gallons, Doctor?
That I don't know exactly. I'll have to find that out.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I don't have that.
that's okay.
Cindy had a question.
Is there a maximum amount per day that will be done?
Maximum,
Amount of
Animal.
procedures that will be
Oh.
completed within a day?
a question from another resident. Is there a maximum number of procedures that you will do in a day?
It's only one, because the water circulates one procedure in one tank per day, because the water recirculates, and it takes about 20 hours of that just recirculating for the decomposition.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, next, from the building plans, it appears there is a crane. Will this cremation system be used on livestock or only household pets? The answer to that was no livestock. The crane is to save the backs of our team members from lifting up and over the tank. And I believe that I read on some literature that this process has a 300-pound maximum. Did I read that correctly?
Right. Well, right. Right.
Okay.
But I have no intention of farm animals or none of anything would fit. Large breed dogs would be as big as we're getting.
Okay. So question C, which referred to livestock, is a moot point because it's not going to handle livestock.
Only pets.
Only pets.
Mhm.
After the body has been through the process, do the bones need further process, i.e. burning? Your response was no burning. The bones will be dried and then processed into ash to then be returned to the family. So it's going to be like, we got ours back in a little doggy can years
Correct.
ago.
Urns or cherry boxes or whatever the owner elects. That's a personal choice.
Okay, and E, will it, will it emit a sound or odor into the air? And a pretty short answer of no.
Correct. I actually visited a facility in Colorado when I was out there, and the loudest it was like your washing machine running water. Now our washing machine here is going a lot, and it's no louder than that. It won't be heard outside the building.
Scotty had a question.
Scotty, you had a question?
Are there going to be other animals shipped into this facility? From other,
I have 3 clinics. So that was something I had addressed in the rest of the answer up higher that I would talk about. So this is strictly for my patients, for my families, for my clients. And everything is done with the utmost of respect. That's why there is a door on the one side. Any animals transported from the other 2 clinics will be moved inside the clinic. And that door closed before any transfer is done. So there will be nothing visible. I fully understand your concern about the ball fields, and I'm right there with you. That's not anything that that's not anything that we're.
Just their
what
client.
question is she answering?
Yours. It's just going to be her clients.
Let me skip ahead a little bit from your questions that you sent in. She did send a disclaimer in a little bit. Also, this is not large scale. We will be utilizing this service for my clients' pets from my 3 locations
Only.
only. Our current crematory service was sold to a national corporation, and in the process, prices have increased dramatically. This would be a service to our practices' families. There will be no sign outside indicating the use of the building. We do have a comfort room planned in this building, essentially giving a quiet area for the individual euthanasias. No phones, no noise, no distractions, allowing our families to spend the time needed saying goodbye. So it's going to be customers, families of the pets that the Mantua Vet Clinic takes
Treats.
care of.
Great.
Only, just hers.
And that's on that page.
That
that had-
language can be included?
Well,
It's on your
we've got
letter.
it. It's part of her response to your questions.
Yes, but I mean the word only. We can't say that somebody's cow is their pet and all that. We're not gonna go there down the road somewhere.
Well, Doctor, would you mind if we added, we will be utilizing this service for my clients' pets from my 3 locations only? Can we add that?
You can, yeah, you can add that. Yeah. Mm-mm.
Okay, we're good
Yeah,
there?
you can add that. They'll be our clients,
Okay,
you know, but it's from my 3 locations, but
right. Got it.
because I get to control, this is part of it as well, because right now I'm at the mercy of our crematories, and they're great people, that's not it, but I'm at the mercy of their schedule when they pick up and transfer patients, which is sometimes not as sensitive to my schedule. And I also get that I don't have that control. If we get to do this, that will be under my control. And so it will be at times when our other clinics are not open and or seeing patients and or we're not seeing patients here and it's closed and quiet.
Okay, so the next part of the question was, when the water is disposed of, is there a chance it can contaminate our waterways? Will there be any sort of increased testing? And the answer is the aquamation process produces a completely sterile solution of amino acids, sugars, nutrients, salts, and soap in a water solution. These are the byproducts of natural decomposition. The pH and temperature of the discharge can be adjusted according to the local requirements. And that's probably something that Gene Roberts would be interested in. Am I correct, Gene?
Yeah, you are correct.
If the discharge is going to come ultimately to Portage County's facility after the merger with the village, we should probably have a conversation about the technical discharge and what needs to occur in order for us to meet the requirements of the specific permit issued to the Mantua wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, will there be any indirect discharge permit required for them, Gene?
No, there may be an industrial pretreatment process which will deal with the temperature and pH. I'll see if I can get some offline communication going with you and put you in touch with our industrial pretreatment people so you can walk through that process. We don't want you to spend a lot of money and time, and we take over operations, and then we're saying we've got some issues that could increase your operating costs. So we'd like to deal with that on the front end so you're aware.
Okay, we'll continue with the questions. There was a miscellaneous question. Will there be a guarantee in writing that this building is only for an aquamation system? If for any reason one could not be obtained, it could not be switched to a traditional or any other cremation system. And the reply is, this will never be used for cremation. I am more than willing to put this in writing. Okay. Approximately how long will the construction process take and when will it begin? And the doctor has indicated she's going to let her contractor and architect answer that question. So Sean, or whoever the contractor is.
Yeah, my name's Rick Haas with Haas Remodeling here in Ravenna. It can go anywhere really I'd say about a 5-month period. All depends what the weather's like and, getting the material here and if it's available. We've had a tough time with that this year, of course. But it's gonna, just want to get started. It just, it's not gonna stop. It'll just, continue until we finish. But yeah, it's about a 5-month period, give or take a few weeks. If we can get ahead of the schedule with the material and the weather again, then we'll speed it up. But if not, it might delay it a few weeks.
Okay.
I can add to that as the acclimation unit itself. They're on a 5-month lead time, so I wouldn't expect them to beat that time certainly at all. And the building going up itself wouldn't take that long. It's getting everything done on the inside.
So you're looking at operation not beginning until probably mid-2021.
Correct.
Okay.
Could you ask what chemicals she'll be storing in the building?
One of the residents was asking what chemicals will be stored in the building.
Just the salt, and it's much less than what like Home Depot or anybody else has for the solutions. There's like about 10 50-pound bags, and that's about it, much less than anything that requires any special permits of that. And there's no extra precautions or anything that needs to be taken other than they don't want the chemicals getting wet, and not because they're dangerous, but because once they get wet, the process starts and then they become useless as far as trying to use them afterwards. So there'll be a platform or something inside the clinic, or inside the building, but we can get the exact of those to you, but there are no special permits from EPA or anybody else required for those.
Good.
And is Doc, is she subject to any types of inspections with this operation, like Department of Health, Portage County Health?
Question being raised as to whether you'll be subject to any special inspections because of the facility.
None that I'm aware of, and there's nothing that's in any of the paperwork. We get, and I'll preface that with, because it will be attached to the veterinary clinic, our state veterinary board comes in at least once every several years. And so they will, because it's attached, they will be inspecting that as well. And I fully expect them to. And if we have to have inspections, if there's something that we're required to do, they're more than welcome to come in and do that as well.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question on, and this is directed at Gene Roberts and Dr. Emhoff. If a pre-treatment system is required through the county, it has to follow EPA guidelines. Isn't that correct, Gene?
That'd be correct. And one exception to the doctor, if an industrial pre-treatment permit is required, it would be subject to inspection by Portage County Water Resource IPP coordinator. And that's more along the lines checking your effluent more than anything else. So just so you're aware of that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. I'll say it that way so I don't get the two Genes confused.
Two things, Mayor. With this building being attached, does it put it over the square footage? I understand Ted Manfres is the architect. Ted is very well liked and very well known in the area. Does it put it over, does the building require an ANSEL system? Does our fire department review this because it's commercial? B, nowhere on this paper do I see where it states what the zoning is and what percentage of the property. This is going to be the third building that's on that property.
Well, actually, let me start with saying there are 2 parcels there. And that is in your packet, the very last page. The little catnip is on 1 parcel and the vet clinic is on the 2nd parcel. If you will look at your last page. So it is on 2 parcels.
Same ownership?
Yes. So then to ask your question, I guess that would be Sean?
Yeah, what was the question exactly?
He was asking about the square footage of the building. Would it require a suppression system, I guess is what you meant, Scott?
Fire suppression.
Fire suppression system?
No, we are well below the limit from the building, from the Ohio Building Code.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, if the pre-treatment system is required, change anything on how they're going to design this?
Dr. Emhoff? Sean, this question's for you. If a pre-treatment system is required, will it change the designs of the building?
I personally, I don't know that I can answer that until I would know what that pretreatment was. And I mean, probably not. I don't see how it would, but until I knew what that was, I don't know. I can tell you that the company that we're dealing with has already gone through all the approvals in all across the United States, and this was never part of the information that they sent me. So I think that I don't know. I guess I'll say that I don't know until we know what that is and if it's needed.
I don't think that if you're asking if the building will get bigger to account for this, I don't think that's the case. The people that make the equipment do make an add-on attachment where they can then reduce the temperature that comes out. And we're not talking about, stuff coming out, under high pressure at high temperatures. It's coming out, at 160 degrees or 150 degrees, and they can cool that. And then to adjust for the pH balance, that's usually a simple additive, piece that would probably be some small wall mounted piece of equipment that would address that. So that it shouldn't be it would not be a big add.
The ventilation system. What will the ventilation will be ventilated outside? Will we have any way for
The question regarding ventilation, is there any specific ventilation system required because of this process?
No.
Yep.
That was pretty quick.
John, I have a question for you. So are there any zoning conflicts with what's being requested?
Michelle, can you answer that?
one for me?
Well, this establishment was, the use was established, 50 years ago? I think the mayor said that back in the early 70s, she took her dogs there.
72.
Yeah, so we're talking 50 years. Absent any information to the contrary, we have to presume that it was appropriately zoned for this use, or the use was properly permitted at the time it was established. Now, sorry, my mask. Even though the zoning may have changed since then, if it was a properly permitted use at the time it was established, then it continues as a non-conforming pre-existing use. So it is correctly allowed at this time because it's been a continuing use all along. See what I'm saying?
to cremate animals?
They're not being cremated.
I don't know if
I don't agree with
That's
that
how
one
it's
word.
It's the same. you're
I
doing
don't,
the
I
same
don't think
outcome.
it should be granted a continuing use if there's zoning non-conformities to what she's gonna add to it. No,
Because you are taking an animal, you're.
I mean, we do have to live with what's there. We do have to live with what's there.
One at a time,
One at a
please.
time.
Do we have any of these facilities in Ohio yet?
Doctor, is there a facility like this in Ohio yet?
There are 2 in Ohio. One is in Bryan, Ohio, and the other's in Sylvania.
How long have they been
And they've been in the state for how long, do you know?
I'm not sure on those.
That's something I'm just curious on, is how long have
I
they?
can find that out easy enough.
Did they receive any complaints? How everything worked?
Why don't they put this in where the catnip bin is at?
No.
I mean, come on.
It's just the
Michelle,
zoning that gets me.
do we conform to the property setback lines?
Yes.
What would be the conflict if they're not in, if they're in conflict with zones, what is actually the conflict? Are there several issues? Is it just the past usage? Is it setback lines now from property lines?
I don't think
those
there's a
correct?
setback issue at all, is there? And that's really all they would have to comply with.
No, they're set back 24 feet. If I'm Gene Arters. When you-
So I think I heard some of the question. Just to make sure I answer correctly, could you repeat the question, Mayor,
They
or
were-
somebody?
They were asking about the setback. And when you and I talked about it, it only required it to be 12, and they were 24 feet.
So the way the zoning is, excuse me, is I'm going to speak specifically to the side yard because I assume the rear is not an issue since that's like over 100 feet. The side yard, and I'm looking at the code here, R2 residential, it requires one side to be 8 feet and both sides total to equal 20. So they could be either 8 feet on the west side and 12 on the side of the park, or vice versa. And currently they're at 20 feet, which means that they've actually exceeded the setback. So they're in conformance there.
I still have an issue with the zoning though, because you're essentially taking animals and dissolving them instead of burning them. So I'm just curious on the zoning for the other two facilities that are in Ohio, how do they get zoned? It's so new, we just don't know enough about this yet, and I really don't want to be this.
If that question was for me, I apologize. I can't hear it.
I'm sorry.
Doctor, do you know how old this process is?
It's well over 30 years old. It's been done for a long time, a lot longer in people than it has been in animals. But yeah, it's older. I know Dr. Cooney's practice has been up and running for close to 15 years out in Colorado. And I honestly, I visited her because my daughter lives in the town that she's in. So that's why I chose that one to go look at. But that's been around for a very long time.
What's the height of this building? The height of this building will be, I can't see it. The sidewalls. Okay, building limitations.
Sean or Mr. Has, the height of the building, please.
Yeah, we are at a 21 foot, which is less than the existing building.
Now, the existing building, we raised the grade 4 to 5 feet of subgrade. Put a 20-foot tall building up in the cupola on there. I've got pictures, I don't get sunshine till 11 o'clock. I'm in the shade, everything died, all the flower beds, all the things, because there's no sunlight. And now, we're gonna totally block off the park and the view, the ball diamonds. We got kids gonna be there all summer. We have a commercial industrial park. Why can't this go there? If it's such a profitable business. 3 buildings are on this property.
And it's within zoning code?
I want to see the zoning. It was a one-time only change in 72 to put up that little pole barn. And then when they came in and built that big gray one, the ones existing now, because I looked it all up, they moved it back on their own from where the original prints were. They moved it back 80 feet. And we had a couple of council trustees all resign about a week after that. The guy in Jack Lang's house, old house, and I don't know who the other one was. I don't understand a building of this magnitude, this height, to work on a 30-inch table on a cat and dog. It's already up, it's already built, it's overburied and shaded my entire property. Now you're gonna block off the remaining, the 2 lots that I own behind it.
Okay. Did you see anything about this one-time zoning thing?
I didn't see anything about what you're referring to, sir. Did you
I
see
found
it?
that at one time
Can you show us the documentation, Sky?
in the county, huh?
Can you show us the document? The county has nothing to do with Manway Village zoning.
No, I found the paper somewhere somehow. No, I do not have it. But if I got a restore, right now I'm taking care of a 94-year-old person. And this is just all dumped on me, other than the letter I got. I don't think we need it. Why wasn't it put in the new Aurora vet building? You just spent a fortune on it. Beautiful building. Oh, that's right. Aurora said no.
Okay.
Is that true?
Well, they do. They're smart enough not to even
Is there
ask.
a reason why you put it in Aurora?
Yeah, all them hobnobs in Aurora, they go for that
Guy.
stuff.
Please. Doctor, the question was, why did you not put this facility in Aurora?
It was a space issue, actually. We started and expanded our rehab practice, and with the land that we could find in Aurora, there's actually no room for it in that building. We combined the tunnel. I sold a piece of property up there, combined the tunnel and the clinic together in a rehab practice. And there's absolutely no room.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm gonna ask the elephant in the room, doctor.
Yeah.
Did you request to put the aquamation system in Aurora and you were told no?
No, I did not.
Thank you.
Okay, questions from the commission members?
I'd like to go into executive session.
Could I ask one more question before we do
You
that?
don't have an executive session for this. Right.
Okay, one more question from Greg Barron.
How much revenue will this generate to the village? If any?
Probably revenue for the village, or so on the tax basis. I can get you that number based on what we paid to our crematory over the last couple of years. I don't want to speak out of, but I can email that to the mayor tomorrow. I just have to run some reports.
Will this be 5 days a week?
I'm sorry?
5 days a week? Or 7 days, will they be running this?
No, she's
No,
already answered that
She
question
already
for you.
answered that.
It was 2 to 3 times a week, 2 to 3.
2 to 3 times a week.
So Michelle, is this a non-conforming use of building and land?
Yes.
So in 420.05, it says no additions, alterations, reconstructions, or enlargements and extensions shall be made to non-conforming use of a building or land unless those changes bring the use into conformity or unless the Board of Zoning Appeals specifically approves the change. No conforming use shall be physically enlarged or extended to displace the conforming use.
Does sound like it, doesn't it?
I think it's more of a zoning issue than it is anything at this point.
So I
We
don't,
sit here, it may require a variance. This Wes brings up a good point. Unless there's already a variance in existence, which Mr. Hollis has referred to, that permits it to do whatever.
But that was for the size of that structure.
For what we see, it does look like there's a non-conforming extension.
Say that code number again,
Yeah,
please.
it's 420.05A.
Did you hear that discussion, Doctor?
Parts of it, yeah, I
It-
didn't everything.
There's a conversation now, so as part of the current Mantua Village zoning code 420.05A, that this would be a non-conforming extension that is covered under, and the building may need a variance.
Okay,
And probably before we would act on, from our part, I think we'll have to decide whether or not it's going to need a variance.
Well, it will need a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Okay, that's,
And will the public vote on that variance?
no, they will not. That's what the Board of Zoning Appeals is for.
But I will say that the Board of Zoning Appeals, so while the Planning Commission is more interested in the specifics as far as whether it conforms to the code or not, it's more black and white. The Board of Zoning Appeals has more leeway to see what the impact to the neighboring properties would be.
Okay.
So it's more of a personal touch as opposed to the black and white, yes and no, this is within code or not.
Thank you.
So this would be a case of it, if we as our group vote and decide that it requires a variance, which Wes has told us, we would probably table this for now and send a letter to Dr. Emhoff that it needs a variance, cite the code. Letters will be sent out again like they were this last time, and a date would be set.
Yeah. Before we would act on that, though, I would just ask Michelle to pull that up and read that and make sure that she agrees with what I'm looking at.
Which if I do that now, you're gonna lose.
You
the
can steal
picture
mine,
here.
absolutely, here.
Another thing you could do while I'm getting this is you can also approve this conditionally based on the Board of Zoning Appeals approving a variance to permit the plan as it's proposed. So it wouldn't necessarily mean that you have to come back and do yours again, do the site plan review.
Okay.
again. So, yeah.
I would say that, in my opinion, and just speaking as a planning member, that the more discovery that we have through various meetings, so the Board of Zoning Appeals and then the follow-up, anything that we can bring to light would add to the decision. So I would hesitate to make a decision pending another meeting. Just in that the latter meeting is going to add insight to the decision, whether we should approve or not approve on the site plan.
Yeah, I agree with you, Wes, that definitely does.
Does we still open for questions?
Can we take another one?
So there are two adjoining properties. Do they share the same driveway? Were those properties separated after all this went in? Were they separated a long time ago? Do they carry separate tax bills?
They carry separate tax bills.
Okay. And is one of them a commercial tax bill? Or
They're both to Dr. Emhoff. Two separate plot parcels, so she gets two tax bills. That's again, on the last page. It shows the two different parcel numbers. One is, the last six of one is 015-000. The other parcel is 016-00. If you want to step up here, I'll point it out to you, Greg.
I see it here. So I guess we'll have to find out if that's.
It was not, there's never been a lot split that I could find.
Frontage.
I'm sorry?
They both have street frontage.
Right,
Correct.
That's what I was asking. If they
Yes,
both had
they both-
front, right?
yes.
That's what I was going for. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
Welcome.
I have questions myself. I would like to contact the two businesses in town that have the aquamation system in place, how long they've had it, what kind of steps they had to take, if any extra with their communities in order to do it. So,
Do you want to email that to me, the names of the towns again?
yes.
Doctor, could you email the names of the two cities in the state that have this process right now to the mayor?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. We're going to do a little bit more research.
And Doctor, I have one last question. Do you, so is there coolers or storage of these animals till you're able to get through the process?
Yes.
And is there a backup generator included in your plans?
If I have an issue, Aurora has a generator. But that certainly can be added if we need to.
Aurora has a generator. If she has an issue here, she can use that facility to store.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Why don't we put it in order?
Already addressed. Okay, any other questions from anybody else?
Is there a reason why it has to be 21 foot tall? Is it just style of
Answer
building?
that?
Just go ahead.
I mean, we just, from a design aesthetic, we matched the roof pitches that are on the original building. Our building is not as wide as the original. The addition's narrower, so the roof is not quite as tall, but we basically just matched the aesthetic, thinking that that was the appropriate thing to do.
Green monster.
Tammy, do you have any questions?
I don't. I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any questions regarding this one? Thoughts on addressing this issue tonight or tabling?
I say we table. I make a motion to table.
Motion on the floor to table,
I'll second.
seconded, all in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Doctor, we're going to table this until we hear specifically on the zoning issue. And hopefully we can be back to you by well,
Your meeting is what, the 8th?
yes,
We won't have an answer by then.
from the zone, yeah.
From BZA?
No, but I mean, you might have some information
Oh.
from the other cities at least.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If we have information from the other cities, we'll discuss it at that point and contact you if it's still on the table or if it's gonna become a contingency at that point. Everybody in agreement with that?
Mhm.
Yes.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Okay, so our next meeting will be December 8th. And as the mayor
If we
said,
have
hopefully
more
we'll have the
information.
information from the other cities. It'll help clarify some of those other questions. And
It still has to go to the BZA. but-
then, and it sounds like you're going to have to get in touch with the zoning inspector regarding a zoning variance under the 420.05A.
And if we could address if I may,
Go ahead.
if we could also address excuse me, if you could get with Gene Roberts from Portage County to find out if a pre-treatment system is available, going to be necessary, and what that will entail for you, and send me that information also. I'll get you Gene Roberts' email address.
Thank you. I put that in the chat, actually. If we can get what the pH and temperature limits are from the county, then we can follow up with the equipment manufacturer and see what they can do. And if they can't hit that coming out of the equipment, we'll address it with a separate piece of equipment.
Very good. Thank you.
I thank you for working so quickly with us in this last week to make the changes that we have made so far. And hopefully we can continue to work this out and keep our residents happy as well as bringing this forward. So thank you
Thank
for your
you.
time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Motion to adjourn this one.
So moved. Second.
Okay, so we're going to adjourn.
Aye.
Aye.
Question, did I hear something from somebody?
Tammy was
No,
saying
can't
aye.
we just said
Oh,
aye?
okay. Thank you. At least you're on my good ear.
Okay, so you'll be receiving letters again of when that is, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
All righty.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all for coming.
And the boys, I'd be happy. Yeah. How do you get out? This way?
No, no, that's it.
Third floor.
Are we? Oh, somebody's probably outside right now.
It could be Hugh Thomas is out there. Is Casey there yet?
On Zoom, yes, and I text Hugh to tell him that y'all were about finished.
Okay, he's outside, correct?
Yes.
Okay, one of this gentleman here is gonna go get him.
Okay.
You?
I know, Michelle, we can't go into executive session, but we can, do we have to have all of our discussions in the public, or can we, what's it called with the BZ goes into?
Well, they're permitted because they're quasi judicial, which is different
Okay,
than this, which is an administrative body. And that's all the case law I've ever read says that if you have a quasi judicial function, you can deliberate in private. It's not executive session as such, as like when you're in counseling, you have an executive session for one of the permitted uses. So I've never seen anything, and I can look for it.
no, I just, you know,
I've never seen anything that permits a planning commission to do executive session for a site plan, because it's not deliberative per se like a judicial hearing.
You've never seen it permitted. Have you ever seen it excluded? I mean, have you ever seen anything?
It's
that-
not an exclusionary rule, it's a permissive rule. Executive sessions are permitted exclusively for the reasons that are set forth in
honey,
the
I don't know
statute.
if Hugh needs that,
It doesn't
that
say,
board on the back to put his
you know,
drawing up.
you can't prove a negative, you can only prove that it's permitted under the statute, see what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. I don't know. I'd have to do more research to say whether I agree with you or not.
Well, if you're talking about executive session, I can tell you where the statute is, and you can read it.
Okay. Fair enough.
Could you ask the people in the audience to volunteer to step outside so you could discuss what you wanted to discuss?
Well, when you have an open meeting, you can't make people leave. That's the whole idea.
Nothing makes me move to say, you know, are you willing?
As for you, if you want to use it,
A little too close.
you know,
Well, then you have the people online, that's the problem too. She'd have to break out and have a reason.
And I forgot to ask if we had anyone, and
I haven't received any emails
Okay.
at that, up at the top of the screen.
Hugh, I'm Mayor Clark. This is John True, Wes Hawkins, John Clark, the chair, and Scott Weaver.
and Tammy Myers, the upper right-hand corner. Casey, you know, I'm sure.
And you know Gene and Rich from the other day.
And Gene Roberts is in the upper left side. He hasn't shown up yet, but he is with Portage County Water Resources, who will be,
Taking over our water and sewer facility as of January 1st.
you can tell we've been married for 48 years. You know, I start, she finishes. Okay, now let me get this paperwork.
There's yours on that. We have our own on this one.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order at 7:20. This is for a site plan review for application number 28-2020 submitted by BL Companies for new building to be constructed on vacant land located on Main Street and Orchard Street in the village of Mantua.
And here representing them is Hugh Thomas. Casey, I'm sorry, I don't know your last name and I don't remember the architect's name.
My last name's Martin and our architect's name is Jared Ducote, and he is also on.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Who wants to start? Probably the first thing we should address was a question from the Board of Zoning Appeals. They granted 2 variances of the 4 that were requested. They were looking for some insight on, let's see, 1,
2 and 4 were approved.
2 and 4.
yeah, the number of parking spaces per 200 square feet and whether or not there should be 2 driveway access points. In your packet, you have a memorandum from Mr. Ifelis from CT Consultants. Rich, you want to kind of give us a quick resume on that or synopsis on your feelings on that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commission, good evening.
Hey, Rich.
Hey. Hope all is well. Briefly, the issue of access management to a major arterial, there is my concern that I'm trying to express to you as I did to the design team and Casey. So with State Route 44, the best practice is to avoid and mitigate the number of conflicts. And it would be my strong recommendation to avoid 2 access points. I'm not familiar with the reason it's in the code unless it's for, and I think I mentioned in our meeting, a box store type development. This is certainly not that. So it doesn't warrant that. And in terms of public safety, it shouldn't be done. The potential for conflicts is lessened, and the design calls for actually 3 lanes in and out. So if there was an incident that you could theorize it could block complete access, there's 3 lanes there. So if there was a mishap, say in 1 or 2 lanes, there's still ability to get around, especially for public safety emergency vehicles and such. So that's that part. And then the applicant had indicated, did not have the data, but that it indicated there's not a significant number of trip generations to a Dollar General on an average daily basis, which might give more credence to the number of parking spaces as proposed. That's about it.
Wes, do you have questions as being a BZA person? You
No.
understand this?
I think the concern was alleviated just in that they're moving it over to Orchard, in my opinion.
Okay.
So in your opinion, the boards might view moving the entry point to the intersection of Orchard and Main.
I think they're gonna view that very positively. Obviously, I can't speak for them.
Correct, I agree.
But I
Okay.
think that just in that they're willing to move it over to Orchard Street, I don't see any problems moving forward at all.
Okay.
Okay, so when is the board's next meeting?
10th.
December 10th?
So we'll have to respond to.
Okay, so potentially December 10th, we can have resolution on those final 2 points.
We will be sending a letter to them prior to and giving them the expert opinion from CT Consultants and ourselves that we've backed that. And just so everyone is aware, myself, Chairperson Rich Ifelis, and Gene Arders met with Hugh Thomas and Casey last week to go over the 47 questions that we had sent to them that CT found. The majority of those questions went away just by moving the driveway to the south side of the property versus the other. And you will see from the email that's in here after the 47 questions that Gene Arters stated after they changed the plans, moved the driveway to the other side, scooching the building to the north, that the engineers, Gene Arters,
That time I knew it was me. Yes.
right. I will let you speak to your email dated to us on November 20th at 2:34, where it starts with, you agree with Hugh after he sent us the reversed
Yes.
updated plans.
So just for the planning commission and the public's information, the reason that I did a full review with the 40 plus review comments was it's not that the plans were bad by any means. It's just I like to keep each item separate so that it's easily checked off by the applicant, or vice versa, so the planning commission members can actually go through each one. They don't get kind of nested together in one big email or one big letter. The second thing is I was not sure if the drive was going to stay in the position that it currently was proposed, or if it was going to be what we were recommending, which was to move it over towards the Orchard intersection. Therefore, if the applicant and the village were to decide to keep it in the original location to the north, then those review comments, a lot of those would apply. But by moving it to the south, the entrance, basically they mirror the entire property. A lot of those review comments are no longer applicable. And again, I wanted to be efficient for Dollar General and Ms. Martin, because I knew that they're looking to start construction sooner than later. And that way they would have had all the comments at one time in the beginning. Mr. I'm going to say Mr. Hugh. I can't remember his last name, but he was fantastic. They turned it around really quick, exactly what they said they were going to do. Got it back over to us for our review. We shared that obviously with the village as well. And there's some things that need to be tweaked back and forth, but that's to be expected because, again, their plans were, I think, turned around within like 24 hours just to give us a conceptual thing. So we do recommend, CT does recommend to the planning commission that they approve the plan conditional upon obviously addressing whatever review comments still were applicable in the original review letter, as well as anything that may be forthcoming in the revised set of plans that they'll have to work out.
So let me ask two questions on that. You said a lot of the things are taken off of the table based on the moving of the driveway. What's still on the table? What still needs to be addressed? And two, you're recommending that we approve a site plan conditionally based on what they plan to do in the future and what they plan to run past you. Is that right? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, their plans do meet the ordinances. It was more the technical side. So that would be, for example, the stormwater calculations. They have to go through and they'll have to change up their impervious versus pervious areas. They have to answer some questions that were pertaining to drainage that we had concerns about. Like, for example, one of the drainage questions was in the original letter was that the dumpster area was draining towards the north and to the east. So it was going north a little bit towards the neighboring property and then east to the rear of the property without going actually to a detention pond. And again, we're going to work that out, but by them moving and flipping everything, that went away. That's one of those comments that no longer applies. But I think just the big picture was the comments that are still to be addressed either currently or that may come up are technical, engineering technical things. But from a ordinance thing, they've met all the requirements.
I've got a question about that, Gene. Can you hear me?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. I had to flip my screen because
That's
I'm
okay.
on twice and it kept seeing my face pop up and I couldn't talk when I see myself.
So on that question about the dumpster, just moving it to the south, that doesn't prevent that dumpster liquids from flowing into the Cuyahoga River and everything that's there, right?
So that is a very good observation. You would be correct in saying that if it was flowing to the east, for example, in the other plan, just by moving it to the other side, obviously it's still going to flow east. And in this scenario, based on the grades that are there, now again, they have not done a grading plan, so we don't have that yet. But that was one of the comments. So number one, they do know that we don't want to see it flowing unimpeded, obviously, especially a dumpster area flowing towards the Cuyahoga River. And then secondly, with their the flipped configuration, they'll be able to address that and get the water to flow into the site to get more into the detention basin.
Okay. But we don't have those plans yet.
That is correct.
So can you understand our concern of approving plans that, that aren't complete and that still have, boxes unchecked and the dumpster flowing into the Cuyahoga? I mean, I understand that it's your job to, help us go through and review this, but in the same token, I can't put a stamp of approval on something that's not complete, right?
Yes, I can understand where you're coming from.
When are you looking to break ground?
Casey, do you know when the construction start date is?
I didn't get a question. We are planning to start construction beginning of February.
Okay, so Casey and Hugh, the question would be is I appreciate you reversing this so quickly, and we know that it's not 100% done yet as far as the retention pond that was there. Also, the way that we had discussed on when the water from the retention pond, because you're still planning on putting it up front and piping it under, and I'm asked, this is a question. So on the original plans, you had it up front and that would go, now it would be piped under the driveway. And the concern was when we spoke Wednesday that we didn't want it flowing over into the neighbor's yard, the Imaginee's yard, that it would have to be directed in another way. And those were questions that you were going to be working on. But again, the priority was seeing if the store would fit on the lot with the driveway on the south side versus the north side. That was the big thing from Wednesday. So we still have to work on the retention pond. We still have to work on the sidewalk that would be along the side of the driveway on the south side from the crosswalk. I see that Casey did address, let me find my little paper here. The one where you're showing that you got approval to put actual bricks wainscoting on the lower section versus the metal, correct? That's the way I'm reading this.
Yeah, it's a Nichiha material.
I couldn't say that word, so.
Okay. It's rough like brick. It feels like brick. Is not metal.
Okay. And then I really like the Dollar General non-illuminated internally sign. That'll probably be a new logo for you guys. That really looks cool. Now, are those going to be like yellow letters?
Yes, they would be proposed to be yellow letters.
Why are you laughing at me?
I don't think DG is going to change that standard. Just
Okay.
special requests for special people.
Okay, and I like the way you have the downlit sign. The only thing that I didn't see on the preliminary sketch with moving the driveway is you still have the illumination pylon sign out by the road. Were you able to talk to your sign people on that one and how we could address that?
I don't have the rendering for that. It would still be proposed same location, but we wouldn't apply for that permit either way. The sign company always applies for that. We just show the placeholder for it. So.
But they've been made aware.
Yeah, yes, they have.
Okay.
Yes.
And again, we haven't received a sign permit yet either, so.
Yeah. Their timing is a lot different than ours.
Sure.
They usually start at about when we start construction.
So I appreciate all these, and these are preliminary plans at this point. I mean, because they're all redone, they're not signed by anyone and they're not being approved. But I think we're moving greatly in the right direction. I mean, we need to get, and again, possibly after we have all this discussion, you might be a contingent on supplying the rest of the information and come back in for a final review. And again, the sidewalk, we'll have to, again, the signage is kind of mute. I mean, you're changing it on the building and we have not received a sign permit. I've made it clear that as of December 15th, that it would not be allowed anyhow. So we get the retention pond in there. And what else? Rich, can you think, I'm trying to remember everything else that we've said that we needed to work with them on.
Thanks, Mayor. Probably would object to the colored pavers in Casey's background. If they were going to put that anywhere near the village of Mantua, that's probably objectionable. But, I think everything was covered here. The only thing I would comment on the conditional approval is that, as Gene pointed out, they're technical. So they're not going to get an approval from us as your engineer without meeting all the conditions, technically, if that helps you. Because I don't know if the board looks at these things technically. That's what you hire us for.
Right.
So no, nothing's going to get approved until we're satisfied, if that helps.
Okay, well, no, that just tells me that we worked very hard last Wednesday. We've made great strides in where we've gotten to today. So I guess, how much time would you need to move forward on completing the dry retention pond, the sidewalk? What other questions did you have? The
dumpster
drainage,
drainage.
the drainage on how we're gonna handle that so that it's not going into a dumpster and down into the river. Tammy, what else did you have? I'm sorry.
That's what I had, the dumpster, and we're just moving it to the south side. Yeah.
Okay,
I think otherwise, I mean, yeah.
so if they can get us a more complete.
Yeah, I want to see a final set with.
Right, well, again, they were very clear, it's preliminary.
And let me emphasize, I am not against this project at all. I think it's going to add value. The only thing I object to is, having to go forth and put a recommendation or an approval on unfinished plans, which I know that you're not asking for at this point. So that's the only thing I want to say is that, if you were looking for approval today, I couldn't approve it because the plans aren't final. Yes, absolutely.
Just for scheduling purposes. No, I understand where you're coming from. Absolutely. So on December 10th is the next BZA,
Yes.
right? I don't have my.
So it's
Our
a
meeting's
Thursday.
December 8th.
Our next meeting is the 8th and theirs is 2 days after. So ours is a Tuesday, theirs is a Thursday.
Yours is 2 weeks from now. So if we could turn it around, I can't say I can do it.
Right.
But if yours is on the 8th, your next meeting after that is
Not until January.
January.
unless we feel there's a need to call a special meeting.
Right.
Right, like we
And,
did
you know,
tonight.
Yeah. and if
And
we
this
had
is,
to-
this is a large enough event that I would not
Yeah,
hesitate to
sure,
call
yeah.
it a special meeting.
Not at all.
I'm always very optimistic and pretty gung ho, usually more than schedule allows.
Right,
I would love to promise something, full plans by December 8th, so that, or before then, so that, well, we got the holidays coming up on Tuesday this week. And I can't promise it. I will try to shoot for that, because I like to get up, I got to break ground in February.
right.
And I think trying to get on the next regular scheduled meeting is the goal. If we do make the 8th and BZA on the 10th, how does that affect things? We won't have the variance approvals, assuming that we would get them.
If I can make a recommendation and give yourself 2 more days and put everything on the 10th, I think that might be the best option. That way you're not having to be bothered twice with it, and everybody can just come together and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
that
saying
might-
just, your recommendation would be for us to hold our regular monthly meeting on December 10th after the BZA meeting?
That would be my, I don't know if that, or the, how much leeway do we need on a special meeting?
Oh, you mean after your BZA? meeting?
Advertising
Just
time?
enough time to get it in the paper.
What's that?
Just enough time to get it in the paper.
Okay. So why don't we do that? Have a planning and then 2 days later have special.
We can do that too.
Well, it would have to go through BZA before.
I don't,
I know what Wes is saying. mean,
I don't
he's-
foresee anything getting hung up on Board of Zoning Appeals.
Really?
Yeah, with
Okay.
with the change of the entrance, and CT's recommendation, I don't think that that's gonna be an issue at all.
Okay.
I can't-
December 10th sound a little more reasonable. Of course it does, a little more reasonable.
And look what he pulled off, him and Casey pulled off in 3 days.
Yeah.
3 weeks.
You're miracle workers.
Almost 3 weeks. So that means we have to get you plans by in order to be ready for the meeting on the 10th. When do we need to get you the plans?
When would you need them to be able to review and finish up checking off the list?
Well, that would be a question more for Gene and
Right.
Rich.
As you can see, we've been flexible. You got them
Oh,
to
yeah.
Gene on Friday. I emailed them out to everybody Friday or Saturday morning. Because
Because even though I turn everything around, I give them to Gene, I don't know, if they have comments. I know they won't be perfect the first time around. He has comments, they get them back to me, I turn them around, get them back. They get all clear, hopefully, after one round. Then I get them to the village for the 10th meeting. That's kind of takes a week off of that.
right.
I don't want to promise, I don't know what their vacation schedule is, and I don't know.
And I think, just to clarify, I think Wes's thoughts here are one stop for you. And December 10th, we would probably hold our regular December 8th meeting as normal, take care of business as normal. If you're ready for the 8th, that's fine. By the
Whatever we
10th,
have, we'll
but
review at the meeting
if
on
we
the
have to
8th.
meet the next week, I don't think anybody would object
Yeah.
to coming in the week following, whatever that would
You
be.
know what? And we'll have Wednesday open after council. If we had our meet the next week,
True.
Wednesday will be open because we're not Parks and Rec and
Yeah.
Shade Tree.
So if we had to bump it out to the 16th, we could.
We could.
Yeah.
If you need to, we could do that. We could meet again on the 16th.
And we can do
It
again,
would be Wednesday, Wes.
we can do a Zoom meeting. Gene and Rich?
Yeah, they'll say, yes,
We could do like another Zoom meeting and go over the plans again, like we
Yes.
did, and tweak anything.
and then if you has any questions during its design, just like I offered during that like 48-hour turnaround, if he needs anything, instead of going through all the technical stuff and then making the submittal for us to then come back and go, well, this doesn't work, or maybe try this, he's more than welcome to either email us immediately, or he can call my cell phone and we can walk right through it and make sure that we get, he gets his answer. He's not spinning his wheels.
Right.
You're still a slave driver, Mayor. That's all I'll say.
A
Put that on
flexible.
the, put that on the record.
Yeah, flexible slave driver.
Well, I was glad that you were so open to us to meet last Wednesday to, you know,
I appreciate it. We never horrible to get too far without getting the same understanding.
yeah, I really want to see this come into town, but I want to make sure that we follow all the rules and guidelines that the village has in place, so.
Let me ask, I know the sign company's not on the same timetable as you, but what is the timetable for the sign company? When will you have a draft of that?
That doesn't flow through our office at all. Dollar General actually sources the sign company. I can reach out to them though and ask them kind of what their timeline is and see if I could get anything before whatever the next date is we end up at, so I can help everybody be at ease about the monument or pylon sign.
Well, let me ask John True this question. If they have a sign company that does that for the sign out by the street, and they're basically preliminary, have given us the design that they want to put on the building, would that be two different sign permits?
All one.
All one? Okay. Oh, I was just wondering, since Casey gave us this one.
Yeah, we're not asking to permit the building sign either. It was just,
Okay,
since we show the front of the building and you want
give
to.
us an idea what we.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Can anybody think of anything else that we need to address that we can give to Hugh so he can, and Casey, so that they can be prepared? I mean, we have the retention pond, I have the sidewalk at the south, and the pylon sign.
And the drainage at the dumpster.
And the, I guess when I say retention pond, it's all
Yeah.
how they get it over there to do. And we had discussed that last Wednesday too, on the retention pond and how, because now it's gonna have to go under the driveway since the driveway's at the south. And we didn't want it to run into,
Sanitary easement.
to the,
Maybe a
That's
different.
gonna be part of our.
right.
That's gonna be our problem.
So are we
Is that what
looking
you're
for the
talking
16th? Is that what we're doing?
That's
Or are we doing the 10th? What day are we doing?
Well,
If I'm
just so
thinking-
you know,
if I
we
can talk
we
about it.
have to have at least, it has to be in the paper 2 days before the meeting. So I guess we have till Friday of next week. Would that be it? Because
Yeah, Friday the 4th.
I'm trying, yes, because the 30th is Monday.
Right.
Okay. So we would have to, Jenny'd have to be putting it in the paper early Friday morning for us to have a meeting specifically to approve this. So let's go with advertise it for the 10th, or plan on advertising it for the 10th, and if you're not gonna be ready, we can do it for the 16th. How's that sound?
That's-
Does that
That's
make,
more
did everybody
reasonable.
follow that,
Mhm.
Michelle?
Yeah, I think you're just gonna do what Board of Zoning Appeals did at their last meeting and recess your site plan review until the 10th, immediately following the Board of Zoning Appeals hearing. That's easy.
Right.
And then.
And then as we get
satisfy
closer,
the notice requirement.
as of the 4th, you can tell us you need till the 16th or the 10th will work. Okay, is that okay with you, Casey?
Works great. Thank you.
Okay, Jean Arders, you okay with that? Okay. Tammy, will that work
Thumbs
on
up.
your schedule?
It does, yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, I can't think of anything else. John, can you think of anything? Wes,
No, I'm satisfied.
Michelle, are we forgetting anything? Hugh, are we forgetting anything from your aspect?
I don't think so.
Casey, is there anything you need from us that we're forgetting?
Not that I know of. Thank you.
Okay. I make a motion that we recess until either the 10th or the 16th then.
Okay, I will second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I know you had a drive out. Well, I think it's a drive. My husband says it's not that far.
This isn't bad.
Huh?
This isn't bad.
Two quick questions. The sidewalk, is that going to be a sidewalk out by the street?
No,
Okay, should we
the side,
consider,
the sidewalk will go down on the north or the west side of the street now. There will be a crosswalk from the west side of Orchard to the east side, and then they will be having a sidewalk along the driveway somehow in there up to the building for pedestrian traffic.
Right where his finger's at.
Yes,
Is there a driveway, is there, not driveway, is there a sidewalk in front of Jansen's?
no.
no, but that's something you know, we might have to consider even the village putting one in eventually because you've got the trails down there.
Yeah.
You know, and the ice cream place, so for people who are up and they want to walk down and get an ice cream.
Well, there
cone,
isn't a, there
I
is
get on the
a,
other side of the street.
Well,
there is a
yeah.
sidewalk on the west side of
Yeah,
the street all the way
The
down.
land is not conducive to a sidewalk on that east side.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
You, there'd have to be all kinds of fill in front of Jansen Brothers to do it there. How could you put a sidewalk in front of Maggine's house when they have a flower bed that goes to the edge of the street?
Yeah. And to put a sidewalk on this particular
In front of
property
the-
would probably take part of the retention pond
Yeah.
space, I would think.
In this case, we're gonna get into a little slope.
And then by putting in the sidewalk, it would be as you move further north up towards McDonald's, obviously on the east side of the road, it would be the sidewalk would have to be literally up against that curb. So, you know, again, advantageous to keep people more on the west side where you've got a little bit of a green space there. I think it's like 4 or 5 feet. I mean, it doesn't make it great that you got people on both sides of this. You can't get on both sides of the street. No, but I think from a safety standpoint, it would definitely work better keeping them on the west side.
I agree.
Makes sense.
The other thing, would we be better to have a basin where the dumpster is that goes into the sanitary instead of being concerned about what we're dumping into the storm sewer?
No,
No,
Yeah, Portage County would frown on that.
Yeah.
Because that would be open to rainwater, whether there's anything in there. And the last thing Portage County wants is that type of infiltration.
well, that goes against the Clean Water Act too. You can't do that per se. And I don't want to, and I apologize, I don't want to give you an impression that their dumpster was like a true dumpster, like let's say like a McDonald's, like a fast food that it's got grease of stuff that they're just pouring grease down there. It was just a matter of it was pitched slightly the road surface, the drive surface, that it was kind of going northerly and easterly, and it's just a matter of like I think of like housing, you know, like my house. You know, you take your dumpster out, everything's clean, but you know sometimes my kids miss a garbage can or whatnot, and I didn't want to see that running off that little bit. Like again, I don't know what Dollar General has in their garbage, but I'm sure even the employees eat their lunch. If they went across the street to Jake's or something, they put a wrapper in there that it's, you know, just kind of runs down. So that was it. It wasn't intended to imply like a dumpster, really nasty.
and the retention pond that they're putting in is essentially going to be a dry retention pond, so we'd have to have excessive water for that to fill, and then it needs to be piped out somewhere. So that's what's the pipes that are going underneath the driveway are from the retention pond.
And that's normal too from a detention standpoint, is that water that runs, for example, from the building parking lot. Let's just say somebody drops, I don't know, a cigarette butt or a candy wrapper or something at the parking lot, then you get that rain, and then it'll roll itself with the water into that detention pond. So we have the Ohio EPA requires water quality. And what that does is during that first flush, it's kind of like the oils, like the salts during the winter, things of that nature. They designed those detention ponds to be able to hold kind of that. And then what will happen is they have a stormwater maintenance plan that they have to follow as well. And that is every, well, it depends on the plan that they develop, but it's typically inspect once a year to make sure that the basin and everything's working, to make sure that if for some reason, let's say, I don't know, there's a whole bunch of trash, like, I don't know, somebody dumps a dump truck in there or something, they have to go out and clean it out. There's certain rules they have to follow. And that's an EPA regulation, not a village one or a Portage County one. It's an Ohio EPA requirement.
What type of, and I probably missed it, but the landscaping, can you walk me through that? Bushes, trees, what do you?
What kind?
What's that?
I mean, what kind of?
Right, where, and,
We're gonna have to put together another landscaping plan depending on how we do it. But we have the regulations about putting landscaping around the front of the property.
Where did Mary Ann go?
She just has her video off.
Oh,
She doesn't show up.
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll have to develop a new landscaping plan for it. I don't have it with me.
Okay.
To show you.
But just an idea, what are you thinking? What type of,
Up front, there's per code for landscaping up here because typically you don't want light shining onto the roadway.
Sure.
They're gonna be significantly down.
Yeah.
We don't want to apply for a variance.
right,
Apply some shrubs. The detention basin up front, even though it's not landscaped per se, we don't want cattails in there.
Right.
So we do plant kind of a mix that can be saturated for a longer period of time and still live. Along the sides, we're not residential along the sides, and I can't remember what the regulations are on the other side, but we're pretty tight. This is a sanitary easement. I don't know if you guys want to do anything necessarily with the sanitary easement. If we need to figure out what we're gonna do there regardless, there is that issue of the sanitary being outside the easement, and we are losing our ability to maintain at least 10 feet away from the sanitary sewer. So
yeah. Well, let me explain to them because all of them don't know this. As they surveyed, they found that back in whenever they put the sanitary line in on the north side of that property, they were given an easement. Well, the sanitary lines are not within the easement, they're outside of it. So it needs to be corrected. We have yet to determine how that is going to be handled, whether we're gonna let them work with the county on that or, and I'm just tossing out ideas. Possibly they're gonna have their construction people there doing this. Maybe they want to move it and we'll come up with a financial plan with Gene to see, Gene Roberts,
Yes.
Gene Roberts, something. At this point, we just don't know. Since Wednesday was the first time I had heard that here we have a sanitary line that's supposed to be an easement that's not, so.
What type of a line is it?
Sanitary,
What,
The 20-inch.
20-inch.
is it vitrified clay or?
No, it's gonna.
No,
be,
it's PVC.
PVC. It's part of the replacement from the old Mill Street lift station.
Okay.
They took that out so they could gravity to the plant versus that. And that was back in, you were in town when the big deal was down there when the contractor hit the AT&T lines, weren't you?
No.
Okay. Well, that whole line was, I'll call it a debacle versus
What it
it
was.
really was. And so it's hard telling how it got moved out of the easement. I mean,
We regularly in Solon landscaped right over the easements with the understanding, like, well, whoever comes into, if there is, if it's PVC pipe, there's a possibility, more than a possibility, that it's going to be fine for the next 100 years. And there's not going to be a problem. And if there is, you could snake it out or wash it out or do something with it. That's not an issue. You can landscape over top of it.
Right.
And then the next contractor that comes through there to work, instead of moving it now and spending the money that, that we don't have, just pretend it's not there, mark it down that, with the understanding that the work that's done there, if the village requires the work to be done, then the village will pay the contractor to replace it in kind.
Well, the way it is now, it doesn't matter. You could landscape everything you wanted to on the easement because the sanitary line's not in it. That's the problem.
It's a matter of surveying more than it is of moving.
Yeah.
along. It's a matter
And
of-
it's also on it's outside your it's on somebody else's property. It's kind of like putting your fence on your neighbor's property accidentally and just saying, well, hey, if you ever need me to move it, I'll move it, which could be fine. Or you get a new easement. That could be an option too.
Yeah, so that's still to be discussed too.
Is the retention pond still good for a 100-year storm?
Yeah, there's
Yes.
200 years old, yeah.
Anything else?
I think that's just something we're gonna have to work through.
Right.
Yeah, that's gonna be our.
Yeah, this is the first, besides him, that the rest of them have heard
Yeah.
about the sanitary easement
Yeah.
debacle. So,
Right.
so we're gonna have to be addressing that probably with service and council
Yes.
to see how they want to proceed. And we'll probably include you in that to get your opinions on what you think too. So be thinking on that, so we can hopefully come to a conclusion that we'll both be happy with on that part too. So, did we already adjourn?
We did not.
We did not.
You did. I think you did.
We voted to recess, but we haven't
Oh,
adjourned this
okay.
meeting.
Oh, because we recessed this. Okay, so Casey, any other questions?
I'm good.
It's
Thank you.
It's getting late. Hugh, anything else?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so tentatively, we're on for the 10th after the BZA hearing. If we have to push it off to the 16th, we will. And you can let us know, surely by the 4th, that's a whole week for you. We can, there's only a holiday in there.
Holidays when you get stuff done.
So yeah, let me know by that Friday, and then we'll know if we need to push it off from the 10th to the 16th. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for your time, Casey. Thanks for working so hard to get us moved forward as much as we have so far. We appreciate it.
Thank y'all as well. We'll be talking soon.
Okay,
Thank you.
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Tammy, have a nice Thanksgiving when I don't see you. You too, Casey. Jean, I'll talk to you before then. You, thank you.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Nice to see you, John.
Okay, all those people.